Hey, Christina Hagany here with Valor Payroll Solutions. So we had someone leave a comment asking about overtime and a semi-monthly pay frequency. And honestly, this is something that we see business owners get confused about. So the work week is a 7-day consecutive period, and that is the basis for your overtime calculations. The pay period is just the period for which you are paying employees for their time worked. And when it comes to the semi monthly pay period, the pay period will end in the middle of a work week, but that does not change the fact that you have to look at the full work week for your overtime calculations. So in this example, I've got several work weeks laid out. It gets a little weird in February just because, up here we don't have a lot of splitting. If the pay period ends here, and I just did this example with someone not working on Saturday and Sunday, this would be a pretty clean pay period where it's basically 2 work weeks. But so you have your work week, 7 days, and that's how we calculate the regular versus overtime. But then you have your pay period, which will accumulate the time worked during this range. So if we kind of bump down here to, so this pay period ending on 3/31 up here. So in this pay period or on this paycheck, the business owner should be paying for all hours worked 3/16 to 3/31. And you can see this is 2 full work weeks and then this Monday as well. So on that check, they would have to pay the 80 regular from these 2 work weeks plus this 10 regular plus the 5 overtime. Then when we go to 4/1 to 4/15, now we're splitting 2 work weeks. And so on this check, the business owner will have to pay for the hours worked 4/1 to 4/15, but they will have to use the hours worked in each work week for the calculation of overtime. So like on this week here, 46 total hours were worked. 10 were already paid as regular hours on this previous paycheck. And so for this work week, the employee is still owed 30 regular because they worked a total of 40, but 10 have already been paid, and then 6 overtime. But you do have to count these 10 hours worked in this work week for overtime purposes in this work week, even though these have already been paid out. This one, of course, is all in the same pay period, same work week. And then when it comes to this week here, these 16 hours will be included on this 4/1 to 4/15 check. And then when we do 4/16 to 4/30, the rest of this week will have to be paid. And so we have a total of 10, 16, 25 hours worked in this work week. 25 hours worked in this work week in this pay period. But that would have to be paid as 24 regular and 1 overtime because the other 16 have already been paid as regular. So again, each work week, you calculate overtime hours and then you accumulate based on your pay periods. But just because you're paying semi-monthly does not exclude you from having to calculate overtime on a work week basis. So you have your work weeks, 7 full days, and then you accumulate those numbers to pay in the pay period. So hopefully that is helpful. But if your employer is not calculating overtime on a 7-day basis, then they are definitely shorting you if you are working more than 40 hours each 7-day period. So I would just maybe suggest using the Department of Labor free app, and you can punch in your time and it will calculate regular and overtime for you. And then that might be a good way to go to your employer and show them that perhaps they've made a mistake, and work with them to get that corrected. So if you have any other questions, feel free to leave your comments and we will happily get to them and give you the answers you're looking for.